I'm going to have a weekly enforced, i.e. I'm not going to be super anal about it, but I'm going to start enforcing a PEP8 standard. So PEP8 is like probably the most common standard followed in Python code because it was originated by the guy who basically invented the language and with input from lots of other people. And I have some links to the PEP8 standard um, and also a link to how to write beautiful Python code following the PEP8 standard. I'm not sure whether that's possible. Beautiful Python code, that might be an oxymoron, a contradiction in terms. But anyways, there's more beautiful and less beautiful Python code. Anyways, short version is use PyCharm. So I'm using PyCharm, and you'll notice that there's little squiggly yellow lines under things in my code. And if you use PyCharm, you've probably seen them as well. And you probably said, oh, that's interesting that there's a little squiggly yellow line there. But I'm going to move on because life is short and I'm not going to worry about it. Well, what it's warning you about is PEP8 issues. So let's go through and fix all of our PEP8 issues. So I'm going to hover over that first squiggly line, and it says PEP8 E265, which is a standard in PEP8. Block comment should start with # space. So it doesn't like that. Okay, so that fixed that problem. So that one's probably pretty easy. But then this is a little more interesting. So function name should be lowercase. So this is a difference from 133y. It is true that many people use lower camel case for variable names and function names. So this is lower camel case because this capital I here looks like a hump on a camel's back. And like if I had another word like down here, so here's a 2-hump camel. Actually, this one has 3 humps. But anyways, it's lower camel case because it starts with a lowercase letter. And then these are the humps on the camel's back. And lots of people use lower camel case for variables and function names in Python. But PyCharm really wants you to use lower snake case. And so I'm going to use lower snake case as well. And I will encourage you to use lower snake case in this class as well. Not because you won't see lower camel case. You might work at a company that uses lower camel case as their standard. And if so, you'll be expected to learn that standard and follow it. We have to be flexible as programmers, but flexible means if you're working on a team and the rest of the team is using one standard, you don't use a different standard. And the argument that, well, I'm used to using lower camel case and it always worked for me, that is not a good argument if the rest of your team is using lower camel case. In fact, repeated failure to learn the difference between lower camel case and lower snake case can actually get you fired. There has to be a sufficient level of annoyance over a long enough period of time for that to happen. But it can happen. Failure to follow coding standards that your company sets forth and documents can be grounds for termination for incompetence, basically. So as I said, I'm not going to be super anal about it, but I would like everybody to try to get rid of all of your PEP8 warnings in PyCharm. So I'm going to rename this to get integer and refactor and do refactor. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. So refactor, rename, and then this is going to be in lower snake case. And this is kind of a pain, but then when I'm done, I will only have to do it once. And then from that point on, I will have reusable code in lower snake case. And then it's going to complain about these as well. The pain only lasts for a minute. And then And I could have refactored that, but okay. So that one's almost done. So now this one we already saw before. It's because I don't have a space after the number sign. This one, if I hover over it, says simplify chain comparison. So Python lets me do something that most other programming languages will not allow me to do, which is I can say min value less than or equal to val less than or equal to max val. So that's a chained expression. So in most programming languages, if you try to do that, what it does is first it calculates this thing, and this is either Boolean true or Boolean false. And if you convert true to a number, it's generally 1. And if you convert false to a number, it's generally 0. So this thing says if 1 is less than max val, then return val. Or if 0 is less than max val, return val. And so this almost always is true. So in most programming languages, that's not what you want. And so you have to use and the way I had it originally written. But Python treats this specially, and it actually works. And so I got a style warning because I could have written it this way, which is more Python-y or Python-esque. So any questions about chaining expressions or about PEP8 or about lower snake case or anything there?
Okay. So that's how we should actually do the chain, just like that.
Yep. If you get a warning about chaining it, that's what it's looking for. And if you get any warnings that you don't understand, feel free to bring them to me, or bring them to the class or post them to the discussion board, send me email, put a message in a bottle and toss it in the ocean. Probably not that one, but I'm here to explain these error messages. Some of them can be obscure. And then we're going to refactor that. And then we're going to fix the comment. Now you'll also see this is pretty common. So if I hover over this one, PEP8 standard E302 expected 2 blank lines, found 1. So in files that have a list of functions one after the other, it wants 2 blank lines between them. Why? I actually don't know why, but it does. And so I could look it up, but I'm just going to do it instead and not worry about it. So show results, and then fix that. And then this is going to need 2 lines. And after a while, you get used to it. And then I change that to lower camel case. And then, after you've corrected them once or twice, you can spot them pretty easily. So it's pretty easy to fix them. And then if I look at this, the only thing I'm getting right here, unused import statement, import database, unused import statement, import PyODBC, and those are in light gray. So I get rid of those and everything is happy. So this is what we like to see. No warnings, no errors. And this is what your boss will like to see as well when they look at your file. So 1962 mail, and I didn't break anything. Okay, so questions on anything there? Okay, so this is probably a good time for a break. Let me just go ahead and fix the PEP warnings in name. So if I hover over this one, 2 blank lines, found 1. And we're not talking about object-oriented programming today, so I'm not going to actually look at the code here. But this code is all fine, except for, I don't know why this person doesn't like spaces after their comment characters. See, like if I was a programmer on this person's team and I had to look at this every day, month after month, I would get pretty sick of it. It's like, why do I have to fix this person's code? Can't they just learn to follow the standard? But I'm not on that person's team. I'm their instructor. And so I'm going to be gentle about it when you make those mistakes. And you might notice that I just fixed that. And then this is also going to end up being lower snake case. So let's go to database. And then mostly it's just comments. And this one, let me, too many blank lines. So inside a class definition, it only wants one blank line. Why? Just because. And actually, let me go ahead and refactor that. Let's rename. And then my rows. And I'm not actually bothering to improve the code right now because it's database code, and we'll look at that later. But I will fix these. So it wants a space after colons, because that improves readability. And then I have extra blank lines at the end of the file. So I need to have one blank line and no more. And that's it. So now my project has no warnings anywhere, and it should all work the same. And it does.